This video is sponsored by SimpliSafe, and there's no safe like SimpliSafe. Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. I'm sure by now many of you have seen Elon on the All In podcast talking about Tesla. But I want to explain something that Elon said when it comes to AI5 and FSD that I have not seen anyone else expand upon. Elon said there was a performance bottleneck on the current version of AI4. Talking about it, Elon said AI5 would have a 40x improvement, that's 40, to speed up the most constrained part of AI4's processing pipeline. And what exactly is that bottleneck? It's the softmax operation. Now, we won't get too technical here because I don't want to step outside of my depth. Just know, ultimately, a softmax operation is just a mathematical function. It outputs a probability distribution that adds up to 1, aka it turns predictions into probabilities. For a basic example, maybe the car thinks there's an 80% chance something is a stop sign, there's a 15% chance it's a yield sign, and then a 5% chance it's something else. Obviously, Tesla's FSD model processes these different video feeds to make driving decisions. And these softmax operations weigh different options like trajectories, object detection, or different behaviors. The reason it's a bottleneck is because doing all of this compute involves very expensive operations, one of which is exponentials, but then that just gets into the math side of things. Basically, AI4 is not built to run these operations natively, whereas AI5 will be. Elon also said that AI4 was running these softmax operations not natively, but in emulation mode, which can be thought of like a workaround, meaning the calculations would not be run on the dedicated accelerators on the chip, but instead they would be simulated or emulated using more general purpose compute units. Elon said right now, using AI4 to do these softmax calculations, they have to break it down into basically 40 sequential steps, whereas with the upcoming AI5, it's going to handle these softmax computations natively with built-in hardware support, which will reduce that process down to just a few steps. And that alone should deliver up to 40 times faster processing for that operation. Now, in short, what is that going to mean for the end user like us? It's going to enable smoother, much more efficient FSD inference without any compromise on safety or added latency. One of the unlocks in understanding this for me was parallelization, which is running tasks in parallel instead of doing them sequentially. Sequentially is doing things one after another in a line, whereas in parallel would be running them at the same time. What Elon was hinting at is with AI5, that softmax operation and those exponential math problems will likely be able to be fully parallelized, aka running simultaneously, which will shorten the time it takes to run those compute operations, thanks to the new dedicated hardware that can run these operations natively on AI5. And further, it's likely to minimize the data movement between the memory and the processors themselves, which can certainly be a big bottleneck with AI silicon. So hopefully it makes sense now why that probability distribution that adds up to 1, that's basically the outcome of these softmax operations, is going to unlock FSD feeling even more sentient toward the end of this year. The probabilities for what the car is seeing should be even more dialed in, and it will be able to come to those conclusions faster. Elon also mentioned briefly AI5 will be much better at mixed precision computing. With neural nets, they're basically just running these math calculations, but not all of them need to be done with the max precision. You may have seen FP16 and FP32 out there, which is telling you what the precision level is or how much detail is needed. FP32 is sometimes referred to as full precision, whereas FP16 is sometimes half precision. But all you need to know, AI4 currently struggles with this mixed precision computing, whereas AI5 is going to easily handle mixed precision models. It sounds like AI5 is just going to dynamically switch between these precisions on the fly at the hardware level, which would not require any software hacks or workarounds. And again, for us, the takeaway, this means FSD will be faster, quicker decision making. It'll be more efficient, which is going to help help Tesla unlock those extra parameters. And ultimately, it should be easier to scale and easier to learn new tweaks to the model. And ultimately, it should be easier to scale and implement tweaks to the model. So yeah, just remember emulation, which is basically simulating these math operations in the software, is inefficient and slower rather than just running it natively on the hardware, which is what AI5 will unlock. And now I'll quickly run through everything important Elon said, so if you've seen it already, just skip ahead to the next chapter. Tesla's finalizing the design of Optimus version 3. We have not seen this one yet. It'll have the manual dexterity of a human, which is a huge claim. And he said Optimus, and specifically the hand engineering, might be requiring more mental cycles for Elon than anything else. Not as difficult as Starship, but more difficult than anything else at Tesla. He reiterated there is no supply chain for Optimus. Tesla is creating the whole thing from scratch. None of the actuators are available from the existing supply chain. Elon said the marginal cost of production at 1 million units per year is around $20,000 to $25,000. That's what he's expecting. But it depends on the AI chip cost. And he said the AI chip for Optimus alone might be $5,000 or $6,000 for the bill of materials, maybe more, which I think is quite high. I would guess most people were expecting between $1,000 to $2,000, which just goes to show how important the brain of Optimus is going to be. And back to the actuators, Elon said each arm in Optimus will have 26 actuators. So between two arms, that's 52 total. This includes the motors, gearboxes, and power electronics. They're all designed from scratch at Tesla. Currently, Tesla's struggling with the final design of the hardware, again, primarily with the hand. That is the main engineering challenge. Tesla's finalizing the design of AI5. It'll be an immense jump from AI4. Again, some aspects of it will be 40 times better than AI4. The engineering teams are working closely on both the software and the hardware, so the teams know all of the limiting factors. The hardware and software teams are co-designing the chip. The raw compute of AI5 will be 8 times better than AI4. It'll have 9 times more memory and 5 times more memory bandwidth. But Elon believes AI4 will achieve self-driving at 2 to 3 times safer than a human and maybe 10 times safer. On FSD version 14, what Elon's calling the biggest FSD upgrade since version 12, he said it will be coming out over the next few months. So there's a chance this month we do get an early access release, but as I've said in the past, I wouldn't expect a wide release until sometime in October at the earliest. Tesla still expects to increase the parameter count on version 14 by an order of magnitude, and Elon said our cars will feel sentient by the end of the year. I grew up going on family trips to Florida. Maybe it's nostalgia, maybe it's the beach and the ocean, but now Ashley and I have plans to own our own place in Florida when the time is right, so we can bounce back and forth since I can work remote. Preparing for this, I did a lot of research about what the best way to protect our home base was. My mother-in-law lives with us since my father-in-law passed, so not only did I want her to feel safe when Ash and I were gone, but I wanted to check on my house from anywhere if she was in Florida with us. And a long story short, I figured out what I believe to be the best way to do that. I now have eyes everywhere around my house, sensors strategically placed inside, and in the future, if I wanted to add a video doorbell or any number of other items, I can do that with SimpliSafe, the sponsor of this video. I did the DIY install, and honestly, it could not have been easier, but they do offer professional installation too. And listen, we have the only Teslas in our neighborhood, so with everything that happened with Elon politically over the past few years, given I leave my Tesla in the driveway always, I definitely wanted to have video footage in case someone ever had beef with Elon and wanted to take it out on my car. But beyond that, I told you guys our first home flooded, like terribly, and I will never forget that. So now I have water sensors throughout my house, plus a bunch of different motion sensors and door sensors that I can control remotely from anywhere. SimpliSafe does now offer Active Guard outdoor protection, which I think is a big deal compared to most of the competition. Most people don't know, with traditional security systems, an alarm only goes off after somebody breaks in. But with SimpliSafe's Active Guard, they have agents monitoring in real time and can identify suspicious people. They can talk to them, trigger alarms, alarms and spotlights, or request an urgent police dispatch, all before a break-in even happens. And unlike traditional home security systems, you're never locked into a long-term contract with SimpliSafe. You can save 50% on your SimpliSafe security system when you sign up for a professional monitoring plan, and you get your first month free. Visit simplisafe.com/electrified to customize yours. And remember, there's no safe like SimpliSafe. Robyn Denholm gave a new interview to Bloomberg. It was over 20 minutes long. And with all respect to her, I'll just say she has a way of saying a lot without really saying much. I'll have the full thing linked below if you want to check it out, but there's only one part I wanted to pass along.
Yes, it is okay. It is how he's delivered in the past. And you know, from our perspective, actually having his creative energies in various endeavours that are outside of Tesla actually helps Tesla.
Yes.
I know that sounds perverse and people don't really understand that, but having worked with him now for 11 years, it actually benefits Tesla with him doing things that are not in the mission of Tesla, outside of Tesla, both from a resource perspective, but also from a motivation perspective. Yes. And so I think to really understand that point is to understand Elon and how he actually works. And so that's what the board sought to do through this plan.
And just one quick tangible example to back that up, LiDAR. Elon worked closely with LiDAR at SpaceX, and that's where he learned its strengths and weaknesses. So had Elon not had the opportunity to do that and gather all of those learnings, who knows, maybe Tesla would have wasted a few years in the early days going the LiDAR route. I could go on with more examples, but I know some of you are still frustrated with Elon not being at Tesla full time, and I just hope you can understand with Tesla's team of leaders and the momentum, he really doesn't need to be there full time. As we know, Elon's part-time is still greater than nearly every other human's full-time, and as long as the vote in November goes well, he's going to be heavily incentivized, and that's all we need. In my opinion, Elon is smart enough to know how to divide his time. Alexander had shared that from January last year to February this year, Tesla spent about $3.3 million on security for Elon. She was asking the board to increase this number dramatically after the events this week, and Elon replied to that saying, definitely need to enhance security. And just real quick, to be transparent, I have been down some rabbit holes this week, as this week's events have gripped Ashley and I in a way that we weren't really expecting. So one, thank you for your patience with me this week. There are some events in life that just wake you up in a way that cause you to want to be with the ones you love as you process things and determine what the best way to move forward is. And two, if any of you ever need somebody to talk to, just know my email is always open. It'll take me some time to respond, but I always get around to it eventually. And three, back on topic, I've seen plenty of calls for violence against Elon on platforms like Reddit and Blue Sky over the past few days, so this whole situation really should not be taken lightly. I would hope we can all agree at the very least America is definitely at a crossroads or a turning point of sorts, and I would never encourage Elon to live in fear or avoid large gatherings, but look, we need Elon around not just for Tesla, but for all of his companies to reach their potential. So all of this to say, one, thank you for your patience, grace, and understanding with me, but two, I was very encouraged to see Elon say this. And finally, if you're someone who prays, I would keep Elon's protection in your prayers in the months ahead. Tesla announced by the end of next year, it expects to have about 4.5 gigawatts of grid-forming battery storage operating across Australia, which would be roughly 12 gigawatt hours. The regional director of Tesla Energy APAC said that figure is expected to double again in the future as grid-forming battery storage systems become a staple of the Australian energy system. He said it's through informed debate and collaboration, engineering design and testing, and a growing base of empirical evidence and experience that the power system begins to rely on this tech to provide system strength services. The most important important part of that, empirical evidence. These systems are already installed, they are working, the numbers are playing out, and the operators want more. This is the blueprint that will proliferate just like the Tesla Semi will. At the end of the day, these business lines are all about economics. For the most part, brand damage is going to have zero impact here. It's all about the financials. Tesla's head of business development for APAC said he does not believe Tesla will sell another battery in Australia that's not grid forming. If you missed my recent videos where I talked about grid forming, just know it's basically the ability to create synthetic inertia. Tesla actually has white papers on this where it argues that grid forming inverters offer more consistent and controllable responses than conventional synchronous generators. That's because grid forming inverters like Tesla uses to deliver that synthetic inertia, they use sophisticated algorithms, think autobidder, whereas traditional synchronous generators that provide inertia, they use rotating mass, which clearly is going to lack a certain level of precision. Plus, grid forming batteries have modular architecture, so they can continually operate even when individual units fail. So yeah, all that to say, the stage is beautifully set for Tesla Energy's takeover in the next few years. Speaking to that, Jed Dorsheimer from William Blair said, "This is a game changer for grid storage customers and a strong data point from our bullish thesis on the energy storage business. We're finding it increasingly difficult to maintain a market perform rating, especially with a positive momentum in the energy business and robotaxi." That was talking about Megablock. But it also exposes their bias, because if it's difficult to maintain a market perform rating, then just get off of that rating. But just more of the same, Wall Street analysts being afraid to put their neck out there at all. S&P Global Mobility put out a report on brand loyalty for 2025, and again, I haven't really seen anyone cover this. This right here is from Automotive News talking about the report, but they said Tesla owners are defecting to legacy brands in greater numbers for a mix of gas, hybrid, and battery electric vehicles. But let's just look at the data and forget what the analysts are blaming it on. They said Tesla lost its loyalty crown to Ford in Q2 after dropping 9.4 percentage points compared to last year. Ford's loyalty in Q2 was 59.6%, leading the way. Tesla now in second at 58.1%. Just know this data is from all 50 US states. And this is worth getting into because it does track actual transactions. It's not just some survey or sentiment. In short, the loyalty rate is the percentage of Tesla-owning households that buy another Tesla when shopping for a new car. Right now, the industry average loyalty rate is about 51%, so Tesla's still higher than average. The conquest ratio is the net customer gains compared to losses. So a hypothetical 5-to-1 ratio would mean Tesla's pulling in 5 customers for every 1 that it loses. And some important context, Tesla's peak for its loyalty percentage was 73% back in June of last year. The lowest it's been was March of this year. It was down at 49.9%. So in the past few months, there has actually been a recovery in that figure to where we sit today around 58%. So for now, it's accurate to say the worst is likely behind us, and the data bears that out when it comes to any level of brand damage for Tesla in the US. I also want to make it clear, these loyalty figures only apply to households that are buying new vehicles. So these numbers are not referring to every Tesla owner in the United States. Again, they're just talking about the portion of that market that is in the market for a new vehicle and what they are doing. But here's the primary reason I'm sharing this. While 70% of Tesla owners chose an EV as their next car in the first half of this year, 30% switched fuel types. And a microcosm of that, in a snapshot of Tesla owner defections to the Chevy brand, 55% of that group bought a gas-powered Chevy in the first half of this year. Now yes, Tesla conquested more Chevy owners than the other way around, but 30% of Tesla owners that bought a new vehicle and traded in their Tesla in the first half of this year went back to ICE or to hybrid. So look, in terms of raw numbers, maybe we have between 15 and 30,000 people in the first half of this year that traded in their Tesla for a gas or hybrid vehicle, which is just more than I would be expecting. And I'm certainly biased because our EV ownership experience has been nothing short of incredible, and I personally will never go back. barring some sort of black swan unexpected type of event. And I'm sure there's people that maybe don't have charging at home, or maybe they want more premium interior materials, or they don't like the minimalistic everything on the screen approach. I get all of that, but again, I'm just saying context matters, and looking at the data from 2024, for much of the year, it was only around 12% of people that were switching to gas or hybrid. So yeah, I found that interesting. Nothing to panic about, but at the very least, I think something to keep an eye on. And I also just wanted to point out, just because Tesla's brand loyalty is down from last year, it is actually recovering from where we were in Q1 this year. Some of Tesla's latest software versions now have this UI notification. It says lane drift detected, let FSD assist so you can stay focused. So yes, this is a nice backstop to have, but at the same time, I think we would all agree you still need to be alert even to supervise. Tesla manufacturing shared the outbound of the Model Y performance is now in full progress. But I'm primarily sharing this to say that no, this vehicle does not have chrome trim. What you're seeing in this image is one of two things. It's either protective tape, or it's simply the reflection of the sun hitting it at the perfect angle, making it look like chrome. I'll be honest, one of my pet peeves is when people say Tesla is sold out for any amount of time. Because in my mind, no, they are not sold out. It's just the delivery dates are being pushed back. And yes, it's not a big deal, but I've just never been a fan of it and wouldn't want to see that proliferate. But either way, deliveries of the new Model Y L in China are now pushed back to November. No surprise here though, because every report we have seen is that this vehicle is selling very well. A-Dub shared a video of a Tesla robotaxi test vehicle out in Tempe, Arizona. We've known one of the next likely states for Tesla expanding will be Arizona, and fun fact, I actually lived in Tempe and Chandler for about 1 year after college. That's where I lived for my training for Edward Jones, and I loved the area, but I'm bringing this up to say that the road system in that area is incredibly easy. It's basically just one giant grid. There was a time when the expectation was that Tesla would launch a robotaxi service in Arizona by August, but that has now been shifted to the end of September. Certainly no promises on that, because even when Tesla gets approved for robotaxi operations in the state, they may not be ready to launch right away. But either way, it should be right around the corner. And separately, Sawyer reached out to Nevada's DMV, and they said Tesla's application to get a testing registry certification was approved by the DMV licensing team this week. Autonomous plates and the registry certificate were also sent back out to Tesla this week. To officially start offering robotaxi rides to the public in Nevada, Tesla will need to complete the self-certification for operations step to roll out a service similar to the one they have in Austin. Here is the confirmation, and here's more information on that self-certification Tesla still has to go through. Basically, Tesla submits some documents and info. Once that information has been reviewed and all the requirements are met, the DMV will issue a certificate of compliance for operations based on the make, model, and year of the vehicles. And given Tesla's already been through a similar process into other states, this should not be that difficult. The rollout of supervised FSD is continuing to go wider by the day as more people are getting it in Australia. Periodic reminder to know exactly where your manual door release is for whatever version of a Tesla you own. Bradford Ferguson shared a timely reminder showing a video where they are in his vehicle, but they are different depending on what vehicle you have. But this is timely because Bloomberg said when Teslas lose power, crashes can turn into deadly races against time, which is why SMR calls it Doomberg. But in all seriousness, please know this inside and out and make sure your passengers do too. If you go to the Tesla configurator for the Cybertruck, you will see there are only two variants, the all-wheel drive and the Cyberbeast. At least for now, the long-range rear-wheel drive variant is removed entirely. Now, given overall Cybertruck sales, I would not be surprised if that variant was not selling well and we don't see it come back. For a vehicle like this, I would imagine most people would want an all-wheel drive vehicle. Not only that, but that variant missed out on a lot of key features. However, at this point, there's no official word from Tesla. By the time you see this, maybe it comes back on the configurator, maybe it's a supply chain limitation, maybe Tesla is coming up with an entirely new offering or a new variant. For now, anything and everything is just speculation. If any of you are like me and you like to listen to YouTube videos in your Tesla through Bluetooth, you will like to hear this. With a recent update, it greatly reduces the audio delay on newer vehicles that have AMD infotainment units. This means more responsive buttons when pausing or playing audio content, as well as video content that's better synced to the audio. But again, for now, that's AMD vehicles only. For this secretive project Tesla's working on, a customer got this invite. Be among the first to take an autonomous ride in Robotaxi at the end of September. You and your family will have the exclusive opportunity to experience our latest tech, followed by your Model Y pickup. Recently, we covered the new delivery center at Giga Texas, where some people will be invited to take delivery. So I can't share everything about this yet, but we should expect more of these direct deliveries to customers. There will be this welcome center at Giga Texas. There's a lot changing with the outbound lot. There are discussions of perhaps a second Boring Company tunnel ahead of Tesla's Cybercab launch. And right now, Model Y sales are going crazy. Giga Texas has added an extra day for production, and the production days have been extended by 2 hours. As Joe Tetmeyer said, on Fridays, which is usually a down day for production, the rate of new Model Ys coming out of Giga Texas was 1 car per minute. So for now, just know Tesla has some big plans and things in the works at Giga Texas, as well as some events that we may hear about later this year. And don't forget that ecological paradise that Tesla is also working on in Austin. As of Wednesday this week, Zoox has officially launched on the Las Vegas Strip. Rides are free and available through the Zoox app. This is fully driverless in their purpose-built robotaxi. For now, this is only available at several destinations on and around the Strip. And right now, riders can join the waitlist for San Francisco, but no launch date on that yet. This won't be free forever, it's just part of Zoox launching the service, and they still need some regulatory approval to charge for paid rides. All pickups and drop-offs will be at that destination's ride-hail zone, which of course makes things much easier for Zoox. You know how coverage of Tesla on certain media outlets has been less than favorable, we'll say now for some time. And this long-awaited Tesla stock breakout, it closed the day at $395.94, up 7.36%. This while the NDX was only up 0.42%, while Rivian was down over 3% and Lucid was down over 3%. So significant outperformance from Tesla stock. The volume was 116% above the average. Naturally, plenty of people are asking what's going on here because it's kind of hard to pinpoint any one thing, which as many of you will know, that's what I always say. It's never just any one thing. That's because upwards of 80% of daily trading volume is algorithmic. But here's a few things I would point to. Number one, some of you won't like this, it's absolutely technical. In short, 350 was a key level. It served as resistance for many months, and once it broke through that, well, we had this run up. On the Tesla front, we have Tesla's multi-state robotaxi approval process out there. We have Elon's political involvement expected to be toned down. We have a brand new pay package for Elon expected to be approved. We have institutions with FOMO trying to front-run the robotaxi proliferation at scale as they continue to wake up to the reality of that business. There's the reality of the macroeconomic data that is shaping up to allow for the Fed to resume its rate cuts. There's the fact that there's a record amount of cash in money market funds right now at roughly $7.6 trillion. So the thinking goes, if rates are cut, that risk-free free yield is not as attractive, so at least some portion of that $7.6 trillion number might flow back to stocks. But I would argue that historically, it's going to take a lot more than a 25 or 50 basis rate cut to actually get that cash off the sideline. But now, over the past 42 days, Tesla stock is up over 33%. And for most long-term investors, what moves the stock on any given day doesn't really matter. So go enjoy your paper profits. Hope you have a wonderful and a safe weekend. Don't forget, check out Simply Safe and stay safe out there. It is an awesome, easy to use, customizable, reliable system, and this world is crazy, man. So enjoy your days. Count your blessings. Love your people, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.